It's fantastic to have so many of you on the call today, and thank you especially to Neil and to Ryan for joining us. I'm going to provide a brief overview of Founder Institute, which is the world's largest global network of accelerators, investors, and advisors. The founder journey. For those of you who are thinking of becoming a founder, you might have used resources such as YouTube or Startup School, and then you might have heard about all sorts of full-time programs, whether it's hacks or 500 startups, as well as seed funding. Founder Institute helps founders and small teams to validate, to form, and to build a fundable business. We offer a part-time program that allows for teams to get this initial traction and to prepare for pre-seed funding. And that's part of the reason we're having a conversation today about some of your pitches. No accelerator around the world has launched more startups across more countries than Founder Institute. You can see a couple of them there in Australia. Here's some more details of Founder Institute companies that have either listed on the NASDAQ, have been acquired, or are still going strong. It all starts with Founder Institute Core, which is a 14-week program where we go through the various stages of ideation, validation, getting your product market fit in the right direction. As we know, product market fit is not something that necessarily happens at once, but there are pointers of success. And during this call, we talk about the rule of one. One problem for one customer with one product that has a killer feature with one revenue stream. And here's a tip. As you think about refining your pitch, even for tonight, how can you sharpen it? By coming up with this one problem for the one customer with the product that has this killer feature and the one revenue stream. Did you know many startups have benefited from being in an accelerator or an incubator? Here is a report, results from the Startup Muster, which is a survey of startups from around Australia. And you can see that peer support is one of the key benefits of accelerators and incubators. At the Founder Institute, we like to provide this peer support. Sometimes it will be through the feedback sessions that you get with your mentors. Other times it will be through one-on-one office hours with people who have dirt under their fingernails. They've walked the journey before they've climbed that mountain. And of course, there are peer-to-peer working groups. Now, what happens after the 14 weeks? Well, there is a whole menu of post-program support, whether it's the $2 million US in partner discounts, whether it is the ability to access support and feedback from the Founder Institute success team in Silicon Valley, or whether it is working out how to get your lead investor for your pre-seed round. Getting your first customer is one thing, getting your first investor so that you can corral a bunch of great investors for your pre-seed round. And then how do you build your leadership skills to influence, to manage, to impact? Plus, there are a bunch of private events that are run for Founder Institute alum. Here's a sample of what happens in the funding lab. This is an accelerator that happens after the FI call to help you close your lead investor. We've got some more details of some of the partners that you can visit at fi.co. Private events, private email list, as well as unlimited access to the Founder Institute sessions. Now, just don't take my word for it. Look at Gagan Biyani. He's one of the co-founders of Udemy, one of the breakout successes of Founder Institute. They're now listed on the American Stock Exchange. And listen to what he says. If he wants to get into the Gates Foundation, Visa, or Microsoft, someone from FI can get him there. Similarly, if he needs a place to crash. And I've met with Gagan a number of times. He is a really good guy. The global ecosystem at Founder Institute centers around building communities, building startups, as well as building funds. Now, all of this sounds wonderful, doesn't it? But a little warning, Founder Institute is hard. And there's a reason for that, because building a fundable startup is even harder. Some of you may have listened to this famous podcaster, probably even more famous than he is as an early investor in some very well-known companies, including Uber, Jason Calacanis from This Week in Startups. He says Founder Institute, by the way, he's been a mentor, is the most raw street program out there for startups. We give you honest feedback, and this is the entrepreneur DNA and assessment that I encourage you to take. It's a psychographic test that helps you understand what it takes to be a founder that has the resilience, but it will also highlight what are your strengths. You can then be part of our pre-seed accelerator. You can track your performance, and then you can analyze and calibrate. And this is a sample of what you get from the Founder Institute Founder DNA report. You can do it for free. I've done it a number of times, which takes us to our one sentence pitch. You've got a minute to follow what's called this one sentence pitch. We might call it a Mad Libs. Like, how do you ad lib? How do you do it in a short period of time? My company is developing a defined offering to help a defined audience solve a problem. So let's go through the example. My company, Founder Institute, is developing a startup accelerator to help idea and pre-seed entrepreneurs build fundable businesses with a structured methodology and a global investor network. The secret sauce doesn't need to be super detailed. Then talk about which market you're in. So you might have this defined offering and what that market is, how big that market is. And then this is another interesting thing. Uber, it's kind of like taxis. It's kind of like limos, but it's much better. You can get a limo service, right? That's the differentiator, for the price of a taxi or even cheaper. And by the way, we have been running trials of this in Brisbane, in Adelaide. And what we're looking for are people who want to help market development in cities like Perth and Auckland, where we have not yet been. So being clear, you don't need to use a lot of mumbo jumbo. Being clear, in our view, is super helpful. Now, I'll just give you one more tip. I have the privilege of being able to see many pitches from many founders. It's a real privilege. And as a venture capitalist, I would suggest that we as VCs are running, at least at our firm, we're running 3 types of scorecards in the back of our minds, our heuristic to screen in or out. Is it a big market? Does the team look like it's a really good team, a killer team? If you're looking at a team that's playing basketball and you've got no one over 5'11" or 6 foot, it's like, whoo, right? If everyone's 5'1", possibly an issue. And then the third thing is we're looking for traction. Have they done things? Have they done things quickly? Are they going to be quick out of the gate? 3 things: market, people, and have they done stuff?
Hi, my name is Kris, and my company is QK.ai. It's a platform which makes compliance and financial analytics simple for aged care, NDIS, and home care providers globally. 13.4 billion of government funding in Australia, which is 30% of the time, is wasted by providers doing admin work. We provide a simple AI insight dashboard with AI agent automation, saving providers up to 300,000 annually in operations and up to 1 million in unclaimed funds. Our AI tools are specifically built for the aged care sector with proprietary IP as a middle layer between users and LLMs, ensuring data security and privacy.
What type of compliance work are you talking about? So there's potentially like health related compliance, there's the actual care and administrative compliance. What kind of
Compliance in the aged care on the NDIS sector, there's lots of reporting, incident reporting as an example, or financial reporting, which quality and standards mentioned by the My Aged Care or the government. Part of that, providers are obligated to ensure that they tick all the boxes, and providers right now, they don't have that much of insight in terms of what's working and what's not working. Every time an audit comes about, they end up getting fined, which is costing each provider or a director gets $220,000 of fine. That's the quantity of fines they can expect if they don't tick all the boxes and not doing the right thing of keep providing person-centered care. This reporting analytics is to help them understand how their business is doing financially in terms of where are they losing money in terms of unclaimed funds, and in terms of quality and compliance aspect of it, government documentations or reporting, which items they're not ticking the box, where are those loose ends, how do they can improve their internal operations to make sure they tick all those boxes. They spend days trying to figure out things, and our AI tools make it very simple and easy. Upload their existing files from various systems, because these guys use multiple systems, right? That's the reason it takes such a long time. So they upload it onto the portal, the AI does the analysis, and it gives them the recommendation. Plus, they can download a standard report which is compliant.
Does it leave an audit trail of all the decisions that it's made? What I mean is like, it's decided this or it's extracted that. Is there a
Yes.
audit trail on how it has done that, or why it's recommending that?
Absolutely. So before we actually tells the recommendation, it actually shows where those gaps are in terms of the risk and why those risks are there based on the reports. And
Yep.
then it actually provides a recommendation. It doesn't just say, go ahead and do this, but it
Yeah,
gives
yeah.
you all these reasons based on the government compliance aspect of it, and also the internal industry standards and internally how they've been operating. That's our proprietary IP, right? Which is in between, which helps them understand much better.
Cool. Yeah, just I'm thinking about GDPR. Why you? Because you've talked like you seem to know a lot, and you seem to have a lot of detail, which is really awesome, because we hear a lot of pitches and some people go, oh, it's a really good idea, but I have no experience in it. So why you and your team?
I've been a provider myself for the last 4 years, and
Okay.
I understand the in and outs of how hard it is to run the business. Right, it's pretty tough. I've actually used multiple systems which is available in the market, whether it's CareVision, Shift Care, you
Mhm.
name it. They always say that they can do it, but you
Mm.
end up adding more and more systems, which means to say disjointed databases. And I spend a lot of time trying to figure out, getting multiple reports, what's happening, right? And if I'm the owner and the CEO, I have to rely on my finance team, and I know things end of the month which I could have known a bit before, so that I can
Mm.
rectify my business. I mean, it's my personal experience for the last 4 years. My team includes a CTO who comes from a research background as well on an AI perspective. So it's lots of strong foundational team which has been set up. We do have a registered nurse on a compliance and a quality perspective who brings in lots of value. So we have a very strong foundation.
Clear presentation, thank you. Secondly, to follow up on Neil's comment, I would urge you very early on to say that I have worked or I have run or I've done something in NDIS or aged care for the last 4 years, because that provides credibility. And then the third thing, if it is all possible, my suggestion would be to somehow link all of
Mhm,
this to
mhm,
ultimately providing better care for the
mhm,
person who is receiving care. Because if I hear this about making money, making more efficient, ticking boxes for government, I just think, where is the heart? So
yes.
if somehow you can say,
Yeah, I
obviously it has
disagree
to be
with
true.
I disagree with Ben, because you'll get conflicting advice from different mentors and advisors. Part of the reason why I would disagree with Ben is because of the fact that I think that the people that you're pitching to are the business owners. As I understand your product, that's the people you're going to be selling to. You're not necessarily going to be selling to the public.
Mhm,
And therefore,
mhm,
from that perspective, I mean, you can talk about the secondary effects, which is rather than being able to spend 4 days on compliance, check boxes, that's 4 days, like 4 additional days of time that my staff can be working on supporting people. The difference there is they're not necessarily like you're potentially talking, and there's a clarity in your pitch that I think you need some further refinement on. It's potentially trying to do too much in terms of
mhm,
what you're actually targeting, rather than saying like nurse time that could be spent there. It's probably people that are more on like the finance and the accounting side, right?
mhm,
And that,
mhm,
like, I'm speculating a lot because wasn't a lot of time to get into the details of stuff, but there's
mhm,
a difference there that isn't necessarily going to translate
mhm.
if you're not really specific about what you're doing.
For my day, I have to do a lot of stuff with security and compliance, and
Yes,
because we deal with the banking and insurance industry
yes,
stuff.
yes.
and so we have to maintain a lot of certifications. Just for what you're doing, have you looked at Vanta? Do you know Vanta?
Not
So
really.
they're a security company out of the US, ISO and SOC, especially SOC 2 compliance. Really good software. They have grown and growing at an incredible pace. You might be able to pinch some things out of their playbook in the way you pitch your business, sell your business, look at their interfaces and their sales team and stuff. Because I'd say there's a lot, completely different industries, but in terms of what you're doing, it's the same thing.
Hey everyone, I'm Kevin and I've worked in the data extraction space for almost 7 years. I've also built machine learning models even before this ChatGPT AI hype that has happened to automate web data extraction. I've also co-authored several patents in my previous role to crawl and extract information in the web at scale. And now I'm building Products Tracker, an analytics platform to help e-commerce brands easily monitor their product portfolio and even their competitors across various online retailers. We automatically extract key data points like price, availability, ratings, and reviews, and alert brands to any significant changes over time, enabling them to stay competitive, optimize their offerings, and make data-driven decisions without the hassle of manual tracking and data extraction.
Is your customer the brand or is your customer the retailer?
The brand that's actually selling the product to retailers.
The brand that is also a retailer? So in this case, if you think of a brand as a Samsung, is it them? But is it also the retailer being JB Hi-Fi?
It would be Samsung. It could also be JB Hi-Fi because JB Hi-Fi would like to know if a specific product is cheaper.
As a pitch for an otherwise complicated product, you did a pretty good job in your pitch. There is some small tweaks that I would help you clarify that thing about it being the brand, and I would probably even encourage you to give an application-centered example to drive it home. People don't understand that as a brand, even multinational brands that are across Amazon, JB Hi-Fi, etc. A company like Apple standardizes their prices in a very strict way with all their contracts, but every other company doesn't necessarily set the prices of what their things are. And so giving them some level of visibility about those top line pricing is important. Although I also would be questioning how much brands actually care about that if most of what they're focusing on is the wholesale pricing that they're coming out and getting from those pieces. And so I'm not sure it matters much to them. But there's probably a lot of other perception issues you can present.
Exactly. I really like your point, Ryan. It could be a Samsung, with the example, is monitoring the prices of the Galaxy S25 to see if there's grey market importation of that device into country X, because that might be causing issues for them, because a customer buys it for half the price because it's grey market imported, and then there's a problem and they'll go to Samsung in that country saying, oh, where's my warranty? And they're going, well, you didn't buy it here. So it could be that type of case. I think the other thing, and the reason I'll add this is because I've previously invested some years ago into a company that's doing exactly what you're doing. That company that I invested into is no longer around. I think at the time it sounded great that there were companies who were prepared to pay for a feed of what competitors or others were doing, but I'm not sure how big that market was. So maybe a thing to explore, Kevin, is have times changed? People pay now for TikTok, as we were explaining before, whereas 5-10 years ago they had zero budget.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good pitch. You've done a really good job of listening to what everyone's, all the feedback from Ben and Ryan and stuff tonight. So I think that's really well done. Also think about market analytics, like you're talking about for specifics, but actually producing general reports or market analytics that then you can sell to the companies who buy that data. There may be something there, and a company to look at who one of the former mentors at FI, Andrew, we've built the company called Built With. I don't know if
I was going to flag Built With,
yeah. So they've done an amazing job of monetizing that analytics of just collecting all those bits together and really building up value over, what's it been like?
That's right. And I think
now?
in the early days, I'm not sure they knew that by doing an inventory of what technologies or systems a website was using, they're hosted at AWS, they use MailChimp, they've got some connection with HubSpot, they're using at the time Urchin Analytics before it became Google Analytics, etc. They had this inventory of what systems were used by that e-commerce website, and then it means that today, if you are coming up with a sales campaign because you have a better version of Google Analytics, you can target e-commerce companies with traffic of more than XYZ and go, hi, I notice you use Google Analytics. Don't you find that their reports are too slow? Why don't you try ours?
Or particular market segments, like they know your site is built and hosted on Salesforce. So if you want to target Salesforce customers, you go to Built With, and you've got a list of 15,000 customers that you can instantly target. So I think you've got it in your background in data. You can extract a huge amount of value. It's probably much larger than what you think it is to start with.
Yeah.
Just even if the cost per user of them using your system isn't high, like Built With, it's cheap for a user and you can get the free access. But it's that larger data set is where the true money is. And if you can keep your company operating lean with you and possibly a small team, you probably
there is one unique difference though, which is the data policies of the different websites, right? So one of the reasons why Built With works really well is because it actually uses the individual browser extension to actually collect and data sniff that stuff, and then from there sends it back to a centralized report. They're not necessarily just broad scale scraping. It's possible. It's very possible Alex changed how he's done some of the stuff over the years, but when he first started, that was a really important part because it meant that if you actually go to whatever, like for example, Reddit right now has locked down all of their data stuff, right? If I actually go in and say, oh, the pages that I track, I'm going to store essentially in my cache and analyze, that's fine. But it doesn't mean that as a separate provider that I can just scrape all of Reddit. And I think that's from your perspective, Kevin, you will be doing more of that inverse, but a lot of, for example, like price trackers and everything else, essentially crowdsource that data by having a lot of that stuff across multiple different people doing that.
Yeah, this is the price of fuel around a suburb or around a town. Like no one.
I think there's still a lot of value for what Kevin's doing, and definitely other things. It just be careful about where you decide to pitch some of that stuff because it won't necessarily work in that inverse way.
And just something else to be careful of is things like tar pits. I don't know if you come across tar pits now. To stop AI bots, you basically build an endless maze loop thing that just holds the bot.
Like a honeypot.
No, it's not just a honeypot. It literally will trap the bot. And as far as I'm still aware, OpenAI is the only one who's got an AI agent that can get out of a tar pit. All the others are still getting stuck.
Good way to make use of your Amazon or Google Compute.
So it's like for Amazon, your website traffic and costs go astronomical, but also as the scraper, you get scraped. Some of the tar pits are designed so the website who's hosting the tar pit has a negligible amount of traffic, but the scraper gets a horrendous cost.
Yeah, that's right. It's teach them a lesson.
And source tar pits out there. So